This is the Wolves POSTCAST, your instant game reaction for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Another night, another Minnesota Timberwolves win over a Western Conference team missing an all-star player as the Timberwolves defeat the Kawhi Leonard-less Los Angeles Clippers by a score of 94-88. The Wolves maintain their spot as the 5 seed in the West, and what ended up being a little bit too important of a game tonight in Los Angeles. What's going on? Back at it here for another Wolves postcast on the Locked On Minnesota Network, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which, thanks to all of you guys, is now the #1 podcast network nationwide. I'm Jack Borman, riding solo, hopefully for the final time tonight without my co-host Luke Inman, who should be back with us on Sunday afternoon. This is our live reaction show, which goes live within about 10 minutes of every game ending. So if you are listening to this on the Locked On Wolves audio feed, please be sure to join us on YouTube. Subscribe over there on the Locked On Wolves YouTube channel so you get notified every time we go live. Also, please keep in mind we're not able to see any of the post-game quotes, things like that. So there may be things that come out after the fact that we can't see, so just keep that in mind. And also, please go follow our man Ben Beacon, who got a shout out tonight on the Amazon Prime broadcast from their analyst Brent Barry, because he does a great job hosting the Locked On Timberwolves show on the Locked On Wolves YouTube and audio feed, wherever you get your podcasts. We'll get into our turning point, our player of the game, and what we'll be talking about. But first, off the top, these two teams played a couple weeks ago at Target Center, and boy, it was not pretty, largely because of how Kawhi Leonard and John Collins played. Those two were absolutely phenomenal in that game, just manhandled the Timberwolves inside the arc. Kawhi went for 40 in that game, and John Collins was terrific in a co-star role, but neither of those guys played tonight. Darius Garland did not play in this game, but they did have Ben Mathurin, their kind of marquee acquisition at the trade deadline, outside of Darius Garland, and he got off to a hot start, but Jaden McDaniels did a great job on him for the majority of the night. But starting out here in the first half of this game, Anthony Edwards and Donte DiVincenzo were the only guys in double figures in the first half of this one. The Clips scored 16 points in the paint, made 7 free throws in the first quarter. But Timberwolves tightened the screws in the second quarter, allowing just 6 paint points and 2 made free throws as part of what was just a ginormous rock fight in that second quarter. The teams combined to shoot 10 for 41, 24%, 1 of 17 from 3. And that 1-3 came with 0.5 seconds left in the second quarter. The Clips, that was their only 3 of the half as well. And then, so the Wolves did lead 44-38 at halftime. I believe it was the second fewest takes and makes for the Timberwolves from beyond the arc in a half this season. The Clippers start the third quarter on a 14-5 run, take a 54-50 lead, kind of the opening 6 minutes stanza of that third quarter. Some really bad Julius Randle minutes that we'll get to. The Clips also weathered a 5-0 Wolves spurt that kind of felt like the Wolves had kind of woken up and said, all right, let's start playing now. But the Clips led 68-63 going into the fourth quarter. And the Timberwolves thankfully had enough in the fourth quarter between Donte DiVincenzo and Jaden McDaniels making some huge plays. Bought Anthony Edwards enough time to find his shot after starting, I think, 1 of 6 from the floor, coming on the heels of a 1 of 9 night in the fourth quarter in Portland. So not great to have a 2 of 15 stretch from Ant in the fourth quarter, but he made 2 huge buckets inside of 2 minutes to go to help put this game away. Again, Wolves win by a final score of 94-88. And just while we're here, a couple of really quick things off the top. Good to see I would assume would be more aggressive tonight. The Wolves needed it. I think his role is going to be a really important one as we move forward here. Made a couple of huge hustle plays, getting a really good stretch of play in that second half when the Wolves really needed it. Checked in with 43 seconds left to play kind of cornerback on a sideline out of bounds, forced a turnover, stayed in the game for the rest of the game, got another steal on an inbounds pass a couple possessions later. So he was great, in addition to being significantly more aggressive offensively, looking for his own shot. He had 9 shot attempts tonight, made 5 of them. 12 points. He was a +9 great to see the core three of Nas, Io, Bones all plus in the plus minus category. And then zooming out really quick, Wolves in this game coming in the 5 spot. They were 1 game behind the Rockets, 1 game behind the Denver Nuggets, who the Wolves play on Sunday, and the Wolves thankfully kept pace and pulled out a win that, it's one of those games you're going to look back and just say, thankfully the team won the game, and just kind of leave it at that. Not a game you're going to watch too much film of, considering the way the Timberwolves played for the majority of this one. On the offensive end of the floor, the Rockets erased a double-digit deficit tonight to come back and win. They are still a game ahead of the Timberwolves. Nuggets were off tonight, so Wolves now just half a game back of them, setting up a pretty huge tilt on Sunday on ABC in Denver for the Wolves and the Nuggets there. A couple other quick things off the top. Julius Randle, again, it just kind of the elephant in the room right now for the Timberwolves is how inconsistent he's been over the course of the last couple of weeks. I thought he was horrendous in this game tonight. And the problem is that I don't really know what was worse between his play on the floor or his body language. And he looks completely lost on the floor. He doesn't give effort that the Timberwolves need him to be giving defensively. And again, I also want to say Julius Randle is one of like 7 or 8 players in the NBA this season, along with Donte DiVincenzo, who has started in every single game this season. And I genuinely appreciate his ability to be out there every night. But if he just doesn't feel himself, I know he's been sick this week, but if he doesn't feel himself in a way that's going to be this disruptive, I just sit out. Just give yourself some time to recover and get back to feeling like yourself so you can come back and make the best impact. And it was also announced today before the game, Shams Charania reported that the Timberwolves are going to sign Kyle Anderson, bring back Slow-Mo on a buyout. And it would not surprise me at all if Kyle Anderson stepped in right away and ate some of the minutes that Julius Randle has been playing, especially if he continues to play this poorly, just because Anderson can fill that big playmaking wing forward role that Randle's been really good at. But he can also defend more physical bigs next to Nas and Rudy, and lineups with Kyle and Nas when Kyle was in the Timberwolves uniform were awesome defensively and awesome at rebounding the basketball. So that's hopefully something that we might see if Randle continues to not play very well, because it's clear that Finch doesn't trust TJ Shannon, who in 4 minutes did not look great tonight. 2 fouls and had a turnover, sprinted all the way back, and then gave up a putback, got caught ball watching. So just a couple of things that the Wolves certainly will have to clean up, and hopefully Slow-Mo can come in and make an impact, and we'll see what ends up happening there. But all in all, just good to see the Wolves get a win regardless of who is out there for the Clippers. Let's get into tonight's turning point.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
All right, so our turning point tonight is really just the start of the fourth quarter, right? I want to highlight the very end of the third quarter and then the start of the fourth quarter. I mean, we've seen so many times this season that Naz Reid has ended the third quarter with a really nice bucket that's given the Wolves a little bit of a shot in the arm right before the end of the third quarter, and then come right back out in the fourth quarter and gotten it going, opening the scoring in the fourth quarter. And that's exactly what Naz Reid did tonight. Had a really nice bucket just with about 33 seconds left in that third quarter, and then comes right back and scores inside in the paint on a nice little baby hook just 14 seconds in, to help, I think, just give the Wolves offense a little bit of confidence moving into the fourth quarter. And just keep in mind too, like over the course of the season, the Timberwolves have been a really good fourth quarter team, right? They're number 3 in terms of net rating in the fourth quarter, and they have the 6th ranked offense, 117 net rating, 117 offensive rating in the fourth quarter, 110 defensive rating, which is 7th. So top 7 on both sides of the ball in the fourth quarter is huge. And a lot of that has to do with the way that Naz is able to kind of help and get them off in the right foot to open these quarters. And then after that, Donte DiVincenzo was absolutely tremendous. Donte comes down, makes a 3 on that next possession after Naz scores, then does a great job setting up a Bones three on the very next possession. And in between making his own three, setting up Bones, draws an illegal screen. And then after that Bones three, what does he do? Comes back down, fights his tail off defensively, draws another illegal screen. So to have those 4 plays happen back to back to back to back in the opening 90 seconds of the fourth quarter was absolutely huge for the Timberwolves. And I just think set a great tone for the group that really needed it, that did not play with a lot of energy for the majority of this game. I think you got to give Donte a lot of credit. You got to give Rudy Gobert a lot of credit. I think for a guy that only took 1 shot in this game, it was about as effective as you could possibly be in a game while taking only 1 shot. So huge hat tip to Rudy Gobert for what he did defensively as well. But yeah, I just think that the way the Timberwolves have ended third quarters and started fourth quarters used to be a huge problem for them, 3-4 years ago, but it's turned into be a real strength for them over the last couple of seasons. And Naz Reid and Donte DiVincenzo have been a huge reason why. Let's get into tonight's game MVP.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
Yeah, this is an easy one for me tonight, and it's Donte DiVincenzo. I think that nights like this, when it just feels like half the team doesn't really want to be out there, you need guys that are just going to come in and do all the dirty work and play really hard. And Donte DiVincenzo did exactly that. And I want to highlight too, especially the way that he's been scoring the ball in the first half of these games has been really important. Donte DiVincenzo tonight had his 3rd straight half scoring in double figures for the Timberwolves. That comes after 11 straight games of scoring in single digits, where he just kind of struggled to make an impact early in games. But over the last 3, including tonight, he's made 8 threes in those first halves. And it's been really important as Naz Reid and Julius Randle. Now, we want to talk about Julius Randle, but Naz Reid isn't exempt from criticism as a scorer either. He's not brought his best game in the first halves of some of these games the last couple of weeks or so for the Wolves. And, certainly he's bringing better energy to the game than Randle, but he's got to be more impactful as a scorer as well early in these games. But you look at these last 3, Donte DiVincenzo has outscored Naz and Julius by himself combined in those last 3 games. Donte DiVincenzo, 34 points. He's 8 of 15 from 3. 5 assists to 2 turnovers. Naz, 11 points on 4 of 13 shooting. Julius, 17 points on 4 of 13 shooting. And the 2 big men between them have 9 assists to 7 turnovers. So I think when you think about what Donte's done, contextualize it that way, it's been super important for him to get off to the start that he had. Then he has the fourth quarter that he has was just huge. And I think especially throughout that second quarter too. I mean, these 2 teams put up a combined, I want to say it was like 26 points in that second quarter, which was just abhorrent to watch. But Donte hit 2 huge threes. And I think some of his shot making throughout the course of the season has been important enough where it's just bought the team time for things to catch up on either end of the floor, whether he's hustling defensively to buy time to get Jaden back in the game or get Rudy back in the game and do the same on the offensive end of the floor has been huge for the Timberwolves. So you got to give Donte a lot of credit tonight and what was a great game from him. He had 18 points, 4 of 9 from 3, 4 assists, 2 steals, just 1 turnover. Exactly what you want from that off-ball guard next to Anthony Edwards. All right. Tonight's show is brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Welcome to the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like Confetti Craze, Fruity Rainbow, or Cotton Candy. There's something for everybody. The board is set. The flavors are ready, and I've got my number 1 pick for the 5 Hour Energy Flavor Draft. I'm taking grape. Concord grape flavor, similar to a grape juice or candy. It's got that smooth, almost syrup-like fruit profile. Classic purple candy style finish. And with my second pick, I got to go with Hawaiian Breeze. You can feel the breeze, taste the caffeine. It's got passion fruit, orange, and guava flavors in there. It's sweet yet smooth and tangy yet tart. Find your new flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon. Today's show is also brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that part hasn't always been so simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. Pulled up the Game Time app, picking up upcoming game, and had tickets locked in within minutes. I love seeing the all-in price up front. No surprise fees at checkout. And the zone deals stand out too. You can choose a section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save. You get great last minute ticket options too, with NBA tickets showing up at solid prices. Again, seeing all of those all in up front with all the fees is super nice. You can take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Again, that's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not gametime.com. And finally, tonight's show is also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs help you reach the right people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data nationwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Alrighty, let's get into what we'll be talking about.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot else to add from today's game other than I really appreciated the way that Jaden McDaniels and Naz Reid rebounded in the non-Rudy Gobert minutes. I thought the way that they blocked out Conan Niederhauser was fantastic to limit him to just one offensive rebound, and the Clippers to just four second chance points. I thought was terrific in this game. So that gets a shout out for me. But what we'll be talking about tomorrow, slow-mo coming back is huge for the Timberwolves. As a personal favorite of mine. And I just think the Timberwolves' biggest problem is their lack of player-led accountability. And it showed up again tonight with some of the effort and energy that they had in the middle two quarters of this game. But Anderson played with Ant, Rudy, Jaden, Naz, and Mike during his time in Minnesota. And John Krasinski was out in Los Angeles for this game, said all the guys that played with slow-mo that are still on the team were super excited to have him back. Anthony Edwards was FaceTiming him on the ride over to the arena today. And again, I just think that slow-mo is going to be a super important voice that's going to hold guys accountable, will not care about your feelings, and will say it how it is. I mean, this is a guy that Rudy Gobert swung at in a game a couple years ago or 3 years ago now at this point. And Rudy still loves Kyle. I've had conversations with Rudy this season about Kyle and how much they miss him. So again, buyouts tend to have very little, if any, impact on the floor. But I think, this one's a little bit different. Granted that Anderson's played on this team before, same coach, pretty much the exact same coaching staff from top to bottom, same players and all that good stuff. But outside of McDaniels, the Wolves don't really have another wing they can trust to defend the bigger, more physical ball handlers that they'll see in the Western Conference, whether that's Luka, KD, Kawhi, LeBron, Denny Avdia, Aaron Gordon. Let alone be a guy that can play the five defensively next to Naz and bring you that ball handling that Julius Randle is able to give you. So I would not be surprised one bit if Finch goes to slow-mo to eat up some of Randle's minutes and then completely assume the role that TJ Shannon's been playing as that ninth guy. down the stretch of this season. And I guess the main question is Kyle Anderson the same player that he was 2 years ago when he left Minnesota? I'm not sure, but 2024 slow-mo fit super well next to the Timberwolves. I guess two of their or three of their four most important players. When you think about when he played with Ant and Nas, those lineups were plus 14.8 net rating in 594 minutes. That's a huge sample size. And next to Ant and Rudy, those lineups were plus 11.6 in 482 minutes. Again, a huge sample size. Both groups had a sub 105 defensive rating. That's elite. Like for reference, Oklahoma City's defensive rating this year is 106.4. And those lineups rebounded at a super high level. So that's super important to think about. And then when you just think about it in its totality, like the Timberwolves turned Mike Conley, Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller into Mike Conley and $15 million savings in tax money. I would assume with a potential extension, Julian Phillips, and then Kyle Anderson, is a guy that very well could be back here next year. And yeah, you add in the 4 seconds, but I think NIL is going to mostly kill the second round, at least in the interim. Tim Connolly said post-draft last summer that he's surprised how much of the second round was agent driven, meaning agents just dictating where their guys were going to go. And I just think that, those picks just may not have as much value until the market kind of recalibrates. And Tim Connolly and his staff have kind of been at the forefront of kind of reading a lot of these things, right? They're at the forefront of reading the two bigs movement in the West. They're out in front and the Rob Dillingham trade mechanism. Like, I know that trade did not work out well, but being able to trade a future first for rights to a draft pick while you're over the second apron or the first apron, because there's no money involved, is like a genius idea that other people around the league were all talking about how shrewd of a move that was, even if the results didn't work out quite as well. And I also think that Jace Frederick tweeted out a good point too, that like the Wolves helped Slow-Mo get more money in free agency a couple years ago by facilitating a sign and trade to Golden State. Like, players remember that. And Kyle Anderson too has a son who's on the spectrum. And Slow-Mo said in his exit interview leading into that free agency that it was going to be really tough for him to leave Minnesota because the schools here in the Minneapolis area have been really good for his son. So on a human level, I'm really happy for Kyle and his family that they'll be able to experience that once again. But again, super excited to have Kyle Anderson back. And I think, again, if he's not going to play a ton on the floor, still think that he's going to be a super important voice in the locker room that unquestionably, in my opinion, will make an impact and will be felt, considering the way that he played that role just a couple of years ago. And he's only 32 years old and definitely has a game that I think should and will graze or age pretty gracefully here moving forward. So thanks again, everybody, for staying up late for us tonight. I know it's pushing 12:20 a.m. here in Minneapolis. Rest assured, Luke will be back with us on Sunday. Fingers crossed for my sake. When the Wolves take on the Nuggets. It's a 2:30 p.m. Central Time national TV matinee on ABC. We'll catch you then. But until then, signing out.